talk about a few weapons that you can use at the start of the game to fulfill a few different roles for a low cost that no one really seems to use. And I just figured out a few of these, uh, and I'm trying to test them out a little bit now. But from what I've seen so far, it's very good. And I'm just going to cover the basics. So the first is the PPSH. Then we got the MP5, the Keter, stuff like that, AKM, and the VPO 209. Now, what I'm finding out with this right now, first off, the true underdog is the PPSH. You can buy these from Prapor for like 25,000 rubles. You can find them on Scavs. If you look for on here, you can buy them for about 15k, which if you know from like last wipe, that's something like the Keter used to be worth. And as we can see with the Keter, it's about 30,000 right now. So it over doubled what it was last wipe, and it's probably because people are so used to the Keter, and like people get stuck in metas, right? But looking over this, I was looking at the PPH and I decided to test it out because I found it in a raid and I kept it, and it even came with these FMJ rounds. Now, what I'm noticing is that a lot of these bullets for the PPH do not sell on the trading post. You get a couple of them there. The top two bullets, the LRN and the LRN PC, don't sell on the trading post. And these other ones, you have tracers that you can possibly use that are pretty good. And even the PST GZH, which has a pretty good damage as well, isn't able to work. But these FMJs you can buy from Papor, level 2, and it's only 53 rubles, which is even cheaper than a lot of it. This is the cheapest ammo that I can run almost, besides the PST for the MP5. Now, the difference between this weapon and the MP5s and the MPXs is that the PPH has 1,000 RPM. So it leaves the MP5 in the dust. Also, the base magazines for this weapon are 35 rounders, which is pretty good. It has 5 more rounds than the MP5. It has ammunition that can do a similar flesh damage to the MP5, so you're getting 5 more rounds plus, the same sort of cost, but you're getting an increased fire rate, so you can take people out faster. Now, on top of this, though, you can get a drum mag for the PPH. As we can see here, if you buy them on the trading post, they're about 30,000 rubles. That's an expensive mag. It's on par with an MP5 mag or something, which you can find MP5 mags and MPX mags. So you don't necessarily have to buy them, but 30,000 rubles is a pretty expensive bit. Now, what you can do, and what I've been calculating, because I was trying to find ways to get the MPX cheaper, and one way to do that's through a trade, and in that trade you can use weapon parts. Now, if you buy a weapon part on the trading post, it can be 10, 12,000 rubles or whatever, but you can also, they went down to about 7 to 8,000 not too long ago. So these dip down in price a little bit, 7 to 9,000. If you can get them in those ranges, you can trade them in Purpore for one of these mags. The 71 round mag for about 7 or 8k, even if it goes up to 10k, is great. And you can find this weapon in raid, all that. But on top of this, this weapon has no attachments. You can't add foregrips, anything like that. The big downside is maybe the sight, and it does have a bit of muzzle flash in the front, so it's going to be hard to kind of see your targets if you're going rapid fire. But the thing with this is that that means that people don't want to take it because there isn't any like a lot of weapon attachments on it. So there's no real value in taking the weapon. They can try to sell the weapon, but it sells for 15k on the market. You might be able to get something similar for the traders, but I'm not sure. In any case, it won't be cost effective because it takes up more space than most other items would. Now, this also means that the PPSH mags that they get off of you, they can't sell on the trading post, so they can't sell them for 30,000 rubles. Now, one of these mags full of ammo only sells for about 8 to 10,000 rubles to mechanic or whoever you want to sell it to. So for a 4 slot item only selling for like 10K, that's not slot efficient for them either. They might take it at first, but eventually you're probably going to get these back if people realize how inefficient it is to get it. But the top part of this is that the actual SP or PPSH, when you full auto this, you can do single tap or full auto, but there is literally no recoil, it seems, on these weapons. Now, early on, when you get started, first off, this thing can absolutely destroy legs. It seems to be able to just obliterate through armor just with sheer rounds, but I haven't got to test exactly how many rounds and stuff this could be against different types of armor types, because that's a lot of bullets you have to be firing, and you could probably pelt someone in the head and do enough concussive damage to actually do something. But the rounds I'm using, the FMJs, do about 50 flesh damage, 50 or 60 flesh damage, and they don't have very much, maybe like 20 armor damage. The highest armor damage you can get on rounds that are still pretty cheap is like 35, 37 armor damage, which if there's more pin, like 30 pin or something, those type of ammunitions are more like BT and stuff in this game. But it doesn't have that, so it doesn't have the penetration power. But if you got to where you had about 40 armor damage and you were piling 1,000 rounds a minute, that thing could probably shred and deal some damage to some armor, even high tier armor. And you can empty a mag pretty fast with these. Now, the Keter, this is the old time favorite. Everybody's using it probably still for some fun. They use it for Killa, all that good stuff. I still use it. I have a great luck with this. The ammunition is cheap and stuff, but the gun itself is twice the price of one of those PPHs. Plus, you want to get the one with the silencer because it's just better, less recoil, less noise. That's the biggest thing with the PPH. You can't get a silencer, but you need to be steamrolling through your targets to get through, right? So the ammunition for this is pretty cheap. You can run really fast with it. Doesn't weigh much. You're able to do a lot of runs. You can get a lot of lucky shots, a lot of leg taps. It's very good, solid weapon here. And you can also buy this from Propor and stuff pretty early on, but it's still quite expensive. You can find these on scavs and stuff, but it doesn't seem as common now. And I think this is still a good gun, especially early. Not because of the price really much anymore, it's because people still don't really pick these up. If you're able to buy one and keep it, uh, you just use it in the raids. I would think this is a good budget silenced option that you can use because the silencers and stuff, you can just buy the whole thing for 30K. So if you're wanting to stay stealthy, this is like the budget stealth option early on. It obliterates legs. You're very mobile. You can reload fast. You ADS fast. It's all good. You probably want to keep the butt stock on. I got it folded right now. Solid weapon. Use it all the time. It's good to keep around. Every time it comes through, just do get a run. It's pretty good. Now, MP5s and MPXs, stuff like that. These are very solid weapons. Now, MP5s get 800 rounds per minute. The MPX is pretty similar. The effective distance is okay. But you can see that the PPSH has about 200 more rounds per minute uh, than these weapons, which can be a difference when you're actually trying to surprise the target. But not only that, is you're able to get the mag, which ends up holding basically to 20 more rounds than the 50 rounds for the MPX and stuff at a fraction of the cost because these mags here, see if I can get a look at them. This right here is at 25K for the MP5. So if you're able to get those weapon parts at about 8 or 9K, you can get two, two or three to one of these, which is fine. Uh, the MPX is a little bit more costly, but it's not a big deal. These weapons, you can go full auto, you can go single tap. Full auto is recommended. With the MPX or the MPX, you can trade for silenced versions, which is really good. It's kind of a faster, better, like kind of Keter if you want something that shoots some 9mm with a better round. The rip ammo has actually went down in price again. It's not as cheap as it originally was before all the streamers showed off the rip ammo and how useful it was. So it's still about 600 rubles, 6 or 700 rubles, better than 1,000. You can take out people with rip ammo pretty fast. It doesn't really matter. So you shouldn't have to use a full mag of rip on a person, but if you do, it's the cost of doing business, right? Get yourself a 50 round mag. You're able to take out a few people before they can get you, as long as you're pretty accurate with your bullets and you can catch them in the flanks or whatever. Preferably behind cover. You got to pick your targets carefully and your environments when you fight with these weapons, because cover can be a big deal. Now, the MP5 as well, depending on the ammunitions. The cheapest ammo you can really get is the PST, 50 flesh damage-ish. It does good armor damage, but it can obliterate legs. It's just going to take a lot more. It'll take about like 15 to 25 rounds, depending, to take people off. If you catch them off guard, you'll be able to probably take one out pretty fast. The rip ammo is still very strong. You can do that. If you use the rip ammo in the MPX, you can go full auto, you can go single tap for longer range shots. With the MP5, full auto is good. Single tap's okay, but the 3 round burst really makes this stick out, because 3 round burst with rip ammo has like a particularly interesting kind of deal where it conserves your ammunition very well, and you're able to tap and keep a 3 round burst going, which it's kind of like firing in full auto, but really if you hit somebody with 3 rounds in the leg, just tapping once with an MP5, it can literally take them out of the game right there. And so you don't really need more than 3 rounds. A full auto, you might waste, 2 or 3 bullets trying to take someone out, but I mean, 3 rounds can get the job done. So it's situational. It's kind of like how you feel about this weapon. But the 3 round burst is very useful on this weapon when you use the right types of ammo. The AP 6.3 stuff like that is very useful. It can help with the armor damage stuff. Good for headshots. You can still shred legs with it if you need to. But those, if you're more of a head kind of guy and you just like want to shoot people right in the face, the AP 6.3s do really well. The new ammunitions they have also work really well, but they're very expensive, and they're like about 1,000 or more per round, which for me personally is just too much for the expense. Why should I try to aim for someone in the armor with AP 6.3 and spend more money when I can use rip and hit them in the leg or an arm and try and take this thing? And this is the big deal too. These guns are really good for leg metas, which is good early, especially when you don't have money to spend on gear, because you're trying to surgically remove gear from players. You're not trying to just obliterate players. So you can't really sell them on the trading post afterwards, but it does keep the gear quality good for you to use in that raid or later on when you use your bigger ammo and your bigger types of weapons. So the MPXs and stuff, they don't require you to have really good armor or anything to use them. It's all about the tactics in which you use them, and then afterwards you can upgrade your kits by using these weapons to acquire the armor and gear that other players have worked really hard to get. And these help you very early on in these wipes, and even coming in later, like I've had, because I've only been playing for a couple days now. I've been able to get quite a few kills with these, use them around. I was getting warmed back up to the game, find out the new meta, see what's going on with people. And these things are very useful, especially in close quarters engagements. They're lightweight early, which means that you can run a little bit faster, be a little more quieter, and try and stay on par with the people who have top end gear. And you can still kind of put out some pain. Now, uh, the MPX is the kind of upgraded silence version of this, which should be better for night raids, things like that. The rip ammo, the AP 6.3, all that stuff still applies. The gun is basically the same. It shoots a little bit, I think it shoots a little bit faster. Not 100% sure. We can kind of go and look at one I got down here that I found. So it gets 50 more RPMs. It's not so bad. A little bit more effective distance going on. You can find these with integrated silencers. You don't really need a bunch of attachments. You can use whatever you find. Just the base MP5 or the base MPX works perfectly fine. But you can use all the ammo types, even the PST, which works perfectly fine with this with the silencer at night as well. Maybe even better than the MP5. So this one can probably make worse ammo go pretty far. And the PST is pretty cheap. It's like 80 rubles a round, something like that. Now, what I'm seeing on this is that it can be a pretty expensive weapon, especially if you try to buy these on the flea market, stuff like that, 40 something K. Uh, what's going on though is that even if you try to buy these from uh, Peacekeeper, $370 is still quite expensive. And then if you're not able to get kills, which kills is perfectly fine, but this is a pretty easy trade you can do for MPX if you're pretty good with these SMGs, but you're able to get this without any attachments, which the attachments are pretty important to this weapon, I feel. Now, a lot of these other options you can get, you can even trade uh, the brown knives for the MP5, which is a really good, easy way to get more MP5s, especially early on for free. So that's something you can do as well. So those trades are very important. But what we were looking at right now is uh, mechanic level 1. This right here is a pretty solid MPX. Integrated silencer, has the flashlight on it, tactical grip, all this stuff, even the POW, and an okay scope if you like these scopes. I'm not a big fan of this scope. I'm sure a lot of people could probably use the scope on this gun. It would take me a lot of adjustment to get used to the scope. I don't like the tiny ones on top. But this is what we're looking at though. The trade for this weapon right here, 5 DVDs, 5 UV lamps, 2 weapon parts. Buying a base one of these is like 50K on the trading post. Buying a base one of these from Peacekeeper is probably going to be a similar price range. Now, these weapon parts, if you buy them at 8 or 9K, it's going to be able to balance this out pretty good. These UV lamps you can get pretty good. They're like 10 to 12K. So you can see that like if you can get these about 10K or whatever, this is going to be about 50K. That's going to be about 20K, so it'll be about 70K. And then you could buy the DVD drives, but the DVD drives are going to be the easiest thing you can acquire with computers on this. You can find some of these UV lamps as well, but DVD drives are a dime a dozen, most likely. Now, this means that you can basically get a MPX fully ready to go for about 70K, which if you bought it off the trading post, a base one would be about 50K, and you're not going to buy these attachments for 20K worth. Like if we look at this right now and we go to the trading post, which I've already just looked at this, but this pistol grip right here is about 40K. This grip right here, which I would probably still use on this, is about 40 to 50K, and it has spiked up to about 70 or 80K at times. Integrated silencer is going to be pretty expensive. I didn't look that up, but I know it's going to be pretty expensive. And then this sight right here, just the big one, the Bravo, is going to be about 40 or 50K right now. And then the small one is going to be about 40 or 50K right now. So this is a couple 100K in a weapon right here that you just bought for about 70K. But here's the thing, is that you don't need this sight or anything. You don't need this flashlight if you don't want to. You don't need any of these parts if you really don't need to. So you can run a base MPX and you can sell the the handle, the silencer, you can sell the top sights, all that stuff to make some money back and probably get this for under 50K. It might be even be like 20K or less. And then you can just pop on a pretty cheap scope, which we found there is a couple that you can get for this weapon. I forgot what it's called, but there's a small sight that you can get like level 2 with these. There you can get the mount as well, and both of them are like 10 or 12K or something in total, and it's a pretty effective little sight that has good peripheral vision, a red dot in the middle. It's pretty bright, so it doesn't blend in with the terrain, and it's just a solid all-around scope. I think I have it on the MP5. Yeah, this one right here. It was pretty cheap the last time I looked at it. So right now it's at 14. This does go down, and if you really need to, you can buy it here. But people are underselling Peacekeeper to buy, like, sell these off. But it's a very solid scope. I bought mine for about 9K. Even if it is going up to like 15, it'd still be worth it. And you can just sell the big scope to make the money to buy that, and then get a little bit of profit off of that, scratch off some of the stuff. But that's going to give you everything that you really need for like a night raid or a silenced weapon that's pretty a little bit better than the Keter, but can use better ammunition types, all that good stuff. Now we start going into some uh, kind of assault rifle type situations, and we're going to be going into the AKM. Now, this weapon right here kicks like a mule. The recoil is crazy, especially early, but once you get to level 2, you can actually buy everything you see here. You can mod this thing out for a lot of money to actually get it pretty good, even with like a 40 or 50k stock and stuff on the back, but it's not really necessary. You're not going to get this that much lower, and at 89 recoil, it's not really that bad. Now, level 2, you can buy this stock, you can buy the butt pad, you can buy or use whatever grip you want right here, but the polymer AK handguard is probably one of the most useful handguards in the game for these type of weapons, especially AKs, because it gives you a hand mount area and a tactical mount. So it's basically everything you could possibly want. You don't really need any extra attachments or stuff. And then the front barrel right here, if you use the AK muzzle braking compensator, the front of this and the adapter actually cost less than the other ones. Some you can get like a Dragon Tech compensator, all that good stuff. Get about 11% recoil or something, but you're going to be spending like 50 to 70k on one of those. Whereas one of these, it was only like 8k or something, and you're getting like 9%. Perfectly fine giving up 2% recoil for the price tag. So all of this, and this is probably one of my solid like favorite scopes to use. It's kind of thick on the edges, so it hurts your peripheral vision a little bit unless you have your FOV out farther. But this thing right here is usually pretty cheap on the market. If we go and look at this right now, it's like 15k. It has dropped down to about 12k. It's a very solid, just standard sight. Uh, Basically, like a PKO6 is probably the best one that I liked using before, but it's very expensive right now, 40 to 60k or something I saw. I would rather get one of these because you don't want to be spending a bunch on a sight. And this is a very solid sight. It's very easy to see the sight in the middle. It's functional. You can see pretty well through the sight. It's cheap. You don't need any adapters or anything like to stick on there. So it's a very solid thing. And then these drum mags for this as well. What we're doing with these drum mags is basically turning this into an LMG. Now, the reason we're doing this is because this mag is about 16k for 75 rounds. You can do 16k for 75 rounds, and this is a lot of pressure that you can put on somebody. And these mags are basically uh, half to one third the cost of someone using like 60 round M4 mags and stuff. You're gonna have more ammunition. It's more of a support role than anything because we're not running the best ammunition in the game. If we look at the ammo chart right here, we're going to be able to go down, and you can see a BP. If we use BP, which is the best ammo we can get for this, it's about 800 rubles a round, and this is a bit expensive. You don't want to be carrying around 75 rounds of this stuff because you're going to break your bank really quick. But we go down to PS ammo. This is the second best. It has similar stats to BT. It's a very, very cheap, cost-effective ammunition, and I'm a big fan of LMGs. I love LMGs in games. I like being the big boy running around, slinging some shells, putting pressure, making people panic. Now, with these guns like this, you're not going to be able to win in a head-to-head fight, most likely. Let's like being realistic here. If people are running M995 stuff like that with M4s, they have a higher fire rate than you, and their rounds are going to be hitting you a lot, a lot harder in the period of time that you have. But as a support weapon, this can pressure people, you can pin them down. The rate of fire is good enough to hit people at consistent intervals if they try to peek, etc. But it's slow enough to kind of conserve your ammunition to let your teammates and stuff go into place. You got enough ammo that you can basically barrage around corners, kill scavs pretty fast, all that good stuff. Pelt people from distances, covering fire, all that good stuff for a cheap price. And you can find the AKM in raid on scavs and stuff pretty easy. Or you can go and get Tachanka from Interchange or anywhere you want. It takes 3 Tachanka for one of these, or you can buy them on the trading post, about 5k, which will give you 15K-ish for a weapon, and then these attachments and stuff are like without the sight is probably like 10 or 15K, and then you have the sight, which is like 10 or 15K. So if you find the gun itself, you can just spend the price of a weapon to actually mod it out decently, getting down to 89 recoil, which is pretty good. And all you got to do with this gun is pull down a little bit pretty hard when you start firing, and after that it levels off and makes it pretty much a laser. It's just that the ammunition won't be 100% accurate when you're firing, but it hits hard. It does a hefty amount of flesh damage. I can look up the numbers real quick just to kind of give you an idea of what you're looking at here. So the PS ammo has 57 flesh damage, 52 armor damage, can pin level 3, deal good damage to level 4, and can deal some damage to level 5. And this is what you're looking for. You're softening targets for your allies. You're able to put pressure on the map, and you feel like you're unstoppable when you do this. Just don't get domed in the face, all right? Now, and with the ability to control this recoil, it's going to be able to allow you to like move. You don't have to go prone. Like the RPK, if you try to use that and you don't have the biggest mods you can get on there, it can be a real hound to actually use it as an LMG. And the ammunition, if you want to be cost effective on there, is not nearly as good as PS. You can get PS early. It's like level 2 Prapor or Ragman or something. I would have to look it up, but you can get it pretty early, and it's only like 88 rubles. So for the cost, so BT for instance costs like 200 to 400 rubles. You can get this for 88 rubles or so. So you can get like 2 to 4 rounds compared to BT, but you're getting a similar result to BT, and it might be even a little bit higher in flesh damage, maybe a little lower in armor damage. But you can even compare this to like people running M995, is that if they're spending 1,000 plus a round, you're able to get 10 plus rounds to their one, which means that you're not going to win in the direct fight, but you have the attrition value, and your magazines don't cost as much as theirs. This is probably something that you can move up to after you get through the SMG phases and stuff, saving those money, and then coming up here. And it's a very solid budget weapon. I've gotten these back in insurance, all that stuff. A lot of people just don't take them. If they do, I mean, the magazines and stuff selling them are not extremely cost effective. The rounds aren't super expensive. So they're not really just going to keep using these over and over. And then the final one for like a low budget weapon that no one really thinks about using early on is the VPO 209. Now, there's a few different VPOs, so you got to watch out. The 209 you shoots the 366 TKM ammo. Now, this weapon right here does kick hard. It's basically like the AKM, but level 2 and such, you can put on these back, the rubber butt pad, the same sort of mods that you can use on your base AKM, and I use the same sight. There is a suppressor that you can get for this that'll decrease the recoil down to like, it'll decrease by 30 or something on the side-to-side recoil, and increase the muzzle velocity or something. There's basically a tip that you can get as well that increases the muzzle velocity, but that's about it. But it's not necessary. You don't need any muzzle attachments on this. The suppressor is not going to make this gun any quieter, really. So you might as well just save the money. Don't buy the suppressor. You get 15K here. You can get this grip here, level 2. You can use any other grip that you want, but you don't really need it. And these parts you can just get level 2. The magazine, you don't need a 50 round mag, but you can use it. I just happen to find this one. And the ammunition that we're going to be using in this is the .366 AP, which you can see sits around 600, 700 for a round, which is a little costly. It's not too bad for what this round does. Now, what we're going to be comparing this round to is basically this weapon is a low budget cost FAL or something like that. And the difference is like the M80, if we go look at this, is about 400 a round. You can get twice as much M80 as you can for the AP. So you're probably thinking, wow, I should probably just use the FAL, something like that. Now that's maybe true. If you like the FAL, go for that. It has a full auto option, which helps you out in a lot of situations. It has a 20 round standard max. But the VPO has the base magazines which are 30 rounders, so you get 10 more shots. You're able to get them pretty cheap, cheaper than the fouls. And then the weapon attachments is the other big thing. To mod out a foul to get it to where it's you can manage a foul level 1 if you really want to. Uh, but to fully upgrade a foul and get it very manageable for fully automatic fire and stuff to take advantage of all of its features, it's going to cost you a lot of money. And the base foul itself, which is going to be kind of hard to find, you can find it on your scav runs sometimes. You'll give it to your scav. You can find it in weapon boxes, stuff like that. But the actual weapon does cost like 50 to 70K on the market, whereas the VPO you can find in raid very often, interchange, stuff like that. And the round, even though it's twice as expensive, you're saving so much money with the gun itself that you're able to afford those rounds. And then you don't have to spend, like, you maybe spend 10 or 20K on attachments to just kind of help you out with the recoil. And that's all it is. It's only a single tap weapon. You cannot really rapid tap this weapon. That is the one thing about the VPO. This weapon is not for rapid tapping. If you are very, very close, like they're in your face type close, you can rapid tap this and it can two-shot people in the chest or one shot depending on the armor types. And that's the big thing with this. You can take down some geared boys with a low budget weapon that they're probably not going to want to keep anyway. They may take the attachments off of it, but you don't really need them, and they're all low cost attachments anyway. You can take down those geared boys pretty fast when they're close and in your face, and you still stand a really good chance at long distance, but you can't just sit there and shoot and stand in one place. You have to shoot, move, shoot, move, shoot. This gun, it takes like a second to get it back down to shoot another shot. So if they're going full auto, let them waste their rounds, and you can do a lot of work with this weapon. It's very underestimated. People don't run this very much. I highly doubt anyone's going to work. But we can compare the AP rounds to the M80 because I was a big FAL fan the last few wipes. I love the FAL. I used it all the time. M80 was my ammo. M80 does 80 flesh damage, 41 pin, 66 armor damage, and it can do a work against level 5 and level 6 armors, which is really nice. But they did the chest buff now. So if you use M80, it can take another round to kill people in the chest, which isn't a big deal, especially for the M80 at close range. Like you can go full auto and get plenty of rounds into someone's chest, and it's a very budget-friendly ammunition. So if you don't die very often, you might be able to use this and take out a few people and just keep rolling with it because you're going to save more in ammunition in the long run. But in the short run, you're going to save more on the gun and you're going to be able to spend the money that you save on the ammunition, which is going to help you be able to be more cost effective at the beginning of this. And this is more of like a level 2 kind of thing to get through and upgrade. Now, if we look at the AP ammo, 90 flesh damage, so it can one tap to the chest, does not take 2 rounds, and that's something that we got to say that for scavs and things like that with the M80, even though that is half the price, you're going to be using twice the ammo to kill one scav, unless you use headshots, etc. And that kind of makes up for like the ammo costs because this is more effective for the scavs. It has 42 penetration, 60 armor damage, which is a very solid. It's a little bit less armor damage, but a little bit more penetration on this round, and it can deal work against level 5 and level 6 armors. And that's the real jewel here. Now you can use other ammunition types if you want, like the Gesker round, which you can get from scav runs, all that stuff. 110 flesh damage with a 45% chance to fragment, and 38 armor damage, which is solid. It means you can do a lot of flesh damage to somebody at range if you really want to. But the AP, I think, is more it's just important to have this because I've had times where I was using this rifle in close quarters and somebody bolted through a door and all I had to do was hip fire or point fire 2 rounds into his chest, and he was done. That's it. And even high level armors, they're going to be feeling some hurt with this round. You're probably going to get it back. The gun's pretty cheap. The ammo is a little bit more expensive. It's probably the most expensive on this list out of everything, but for what it can do, it is very, very good. And all of these are pretty loud, but for the cost, they're able to put in some serious lifting. Now, what's very good and kind of the final note of all this is that the Ketters, the MP5s, the MPXs, the AKM with the LMG type builds, those kind of weapons, especially early, you can fire at full auto without having to have a ton of recoil control, especially for the SMGs. But this does level up your total overall recoil control. And then afterwards, once you get through the SMG phase, you get to the assault rifle area, you're going to have the total kind of recoil control leveled up a bit, and then you're going to be able to use the assault rifles a little bit better. And this is going to allow you to level up your assault rifle ability because you're able to pump out more rounds with less worry about the cost of those rounds uh, at the first, which is just gonna like the more rounds you shoot, the better your recoil is gonna level. So go ham in your matches, take people out. Now, the third thing that kind of happens here is that people have gear fear for sure. And when people play this game and you're told to buy the best ammunition and use it in your guns, it's good advice, but in the back of their head, they're going to be thinking about how much that ammunition costs, which is going to cause you to hesitate on this trigger. I know for a fact this is going to make you hesitate on this trigger about this ammunition. And if you have it in your rig, you're going to really, really think about it. Now, also, a lot of higher end players have multiple magazines full of high tier ammo. And then you're going to be able to basically take those rounds and just use them to obliterate enemies and then have access to the loot. People who have at the beginning of the game and they have really high ammo to put into their rounds, they're not going to be able to afford a bunch of it, and they're going to need to try and protect most of it. So they're going to have to put in their gamma and stuff like that. Whereas if you have a cost-effective budget round, that you're able to put a lot of rounds out to level out your skill sets
Yo,
early.
Dragon Lord.
Yeah,
Oh, that was you fucking. Sorry, I got tripped out because I heard you talking twice because I was watching your video for a second.
yeah, it's no big deal. I was recording all this. I was wrapping stuff up. I tried the PPH.
Oh shit, dude, did I I fucked up your recording?
No, it's fine. I'll just leave it in there. I don't care. But
I'm sorry, man.
no, no,
Go ahead.
it's all about info, bro. But it's gonna allow them to not have to worry about the cost of their ammunition. They're gonna be able to carry more of it, more cost effectively at the first of the matches, while they're getting used to the game, and be able to press enemies without having to think they're gonna lose a whole bunch of money in the process.